Hi there, this is H. Victoria Hogger Atkerson. I'm an author and a writer, and I wanted to talk to you about some stories I've been reading. You have a book called Slave Narratives that was written back in 1835. Now, slavery ended in 1865. So these stories were way before their time, but I think it was wonderful that someone took the time to write them down so that we can hear these stories and learn from them. And the reason I wanted to bring these to your attention today was because I have been working with some young people during the summer, and one of the things that they have been telling me is that it's no use of doing anything. Um, it's not going to make any difference what happens if they vote, if they don't vote. That is, it just doesn't make any sense to them to do that. So, my challenge to them is to be as courageous as these people in these stories. Read these stories. I think I've read a couple of them already, but it's very important that we internalize it. Be a Harriet Tubman. Be uh, uh, people who took their own lives in their hand and the responsibilities of their families. Some people got to freedom and they didn't forget the people they left behind. They were able to work, send money back to purchase their family members. And some went back, like Harriet Tubman, went back and got their family members. And I think this shows and demonstrates the tenacity and the determination of our people. We came from in this country. We came from nothing, but we did our history from way back in Africa. We had everything. We had dynasties. We had kingdoms. We had amazing lives. And you have to remember that we did everything. We invented everything: astronomy, astrology, um, medicine, surgery, you name it. We had the first colleges and universities. And do me a favor, if you haven't did research on Timbuktu, please do that, because they are unearthing, actually unearthing documents that are centuries old to prove the point that we were the first writers of this world. They have been hidden from white people, Europeans who come there looking for evidence of old documents that they can claim for themselves. But these wonderful black Africans have held on to those documents for centuries and stood guard over them. Now they feel uh, assured that they can present them to the world without them being taken away from them. So they are opening libraries all over Timbuktu named after their families that kept these wonderful documents for us to examine. And I can't wait. I think it's going to be amazing. We see how brilliant we are. They have documents showing that we did the first open heart surgeries and all kind of amazing things. You have to remember the pyramids were built by us, and they had running water in pyramids thousands of years ago. You can't tell me that we weren't brilliant. Okay, I'm going to start right now because I want to tell you about my books. And Walking Among the Kudzu is one of the books that I wrote, and it's about living in the South. This is about a young girl who was a troubled teen. She lived with an abusive mother and finally moved to Atlanta, Georgia, and that is from Chicago. She was in Chicago. She moved to Atlanta, Georgia, and uh, the kudzu is representative of trouble in this picture here, because if you're standing in the middle of kudzu vines, you are in trouble. Okay, but it's a wonderful book to follow the life of a young adolescent and how she dealt with the issues in her life and how she overcame a lot of things. Okay, my next one would be Stones Along the Path. Stones Along the Path is an amazing love story about a woman who lived in Philadelphia. And she went away to the Peace Corps in Africa and met this amazing guy, fell in love, and had a whirlwind romance. And then she went home with him, and she discovered in his little village exactly who he was. And that's when the trouble started. It was ongoing for ages. We did book 1 and book 2. Book 3 is coming out, guys. Great story. One I promised to keep going for my sister Jerry because she loved that story so much. The next one is Bottom Up Bottom, and a lot of you may have seen this. This is a place I played in when I was a kid growing up in Atlanta, Georgia. This was a, what you call a bucket of blood neighborhood. My mother always threatened us not to go there, never ever be seen on those streets, don't let me catch you there, whatever. But we all played there because all the kids lived there and they were our classmates, so we all played on those streets. And I can't say streets, I would say roads, because they were not paved and the roads were always wet because the whole neighborhood sat in a ditch. And the streets were always wet because it got the rain from that neighborhood. And this story talks about the life of our people in one of the first neighborhoods occupied by Black people in the South, because they were not allowed to live in decent neighborhoods. So this was one of the places. It was very, very inferior living conditions, but we endured that also because we're strong, brilliant people. We know how to make joy, peace, and success out of anything. So this story talks about the hardships of living in this community, but it also talks about the community that was built there, the sense of oneness, one that we don't have today. That sense of community which supports and strengthens each other was on display in this neighborhood. And I urge you to read that because it's great sexual stories, great stories about the blues, about gambling, about witchcraft. You think whatever you want to think of, even some good church stories in there also. So get that book. It's really great. The last one I have here is Enslaved. Part 2 will be out soon. I keep promising, but I'm also publishing. So it's very difficult to get this part 2 done. It is finished. I just have to get it to the table to publish it. So part 2 is coming out. But Get Enslaved. This is about an African princess and a member of her royal guard who are kidnapped from Africa and thrown on a slave ship. And we get to see the slave ship. And we get to see every aspect of being on that slave ship. Because, you think, if I was in that condition, what would I do? Well, this would give you an example of what you might do under those circumstances. And maybe give you some inner strength to know that you are from people who survived these torturous situations which allowed you to live today. So, Get Enslaved. Then you'll be able to get part 2, buy it, and love it. Okay? So I don't have time to do any reading right now for my slave narratives, but I urge you get a copy of it and take a look at the stories. And sorry about that. That was my reading light. So get a copy of these stories because I think they're very valuable. And because if you know your past, you can know your future. It would help you to do everything better and with much determination and strength. So take care. I love you. And see you next time. Okay? Bye-bye.